Hello and welcome, dear human family, to another video update here on this channel. I hope you're doing well, considering the circumstances. I hope you're staying in there and not give up. Never give up. Never give up the fight. But we can stop fighting through embodying, recognizing, and putting into action when the timing's right of real knowledge, the truth, and let the light of the truth sink into our being, and then nothing can touch us. This is the other side of all the suffering, the chaos, the destruction, psychopathy, and insanity that we're seeing out on the world stage right now. And I'm gonna get into that and look at things from a different perspective and take on a different perception of the whole situation, because if we're stuck in a certain way of looking at world events that are happening around us right now, and if we're stuck at looking at our own life, then it's important to change perspective, because you're stuck. You have the wall in front of you. You don't know how it continues, but maybe it's the realization that you're spiraling up to the next level. That's why there's a wall. And all you need to do is shift perception. Shift your attention, your awareness of what the situation really looks like. And then you see that life always continues. And energy moves further along. It never vanishes. Energy just transforms. So I've got quite a few slides prepared for you. And I'll better stop rambling now and give it all away straight in the beginning, but actually use the slides that I've got for you in order to get a deeper understanding of what it is that I mean. And I do these videos also to embody this knowledge on a much deeper level in order to face my deepest fears and face what needs to be faced in order to transform this world into the paradise that it was meant to be. So let's head right into the slides. So I would like to continue the theme of my last video, which was about the dark side of the awakening process. And there is a dark side to it, and there is a light side to it, and both of these are allowed to be there equally. They have equal value to our awakening process, and it is a destructive process. We can go through massive pain in this process. There's a lot of pain that comes up during this process. However, as I once learned along my journey, pain is inevitable. However, suffering is optional. And that I have from a very good friend of mine. Thank you for that insight. Suffering is the optional part, and we can decrease the suffering through taking in the truth, and having that clarity of the truth brings us more into a state of balance. And as you may recall from the last video, I shared with you my state of being completely disempowered and being in a state of confusion. The question, why is this happening to me? Why am I feeling like this. I feel totally lost. I don't know anymore what I should do. I don't know what I'm here to do. What am I here to do? And then I get impatient because I don't get an immediate answer. And then that pulls me into an even darker vortex. And then I have a choice. Do I continue like this and go down? Or do I rise up once again? And of course, I rise up once again. This is the choice that I make. This is the choice I will always make. Because there is a intention that I wish to manifest, and I won't stop until I've manifested it. That is the hardcore truth of the matter. And when I do these videos and I share with you honestly the wisdom that I take from all of my hard times, it anchors me even more in my being, and I gain trust in my own being, and that builds up my confidence, which is very important in these times, is that our confidence grows, and that it grows through putting into effect that which we need to share with the world. So disempowerment, suffering, anxiety, and fear are all originating from a perception of duality and of separation. So, next to not feeling that good, and fear, anxiety, and sorrow, and all sorts of things that come up, you feel this way, and then also you look out in the world, and boy oh boy, can that, when you observe world events, or when you just go into a supermarket, boy oh boy, can that really intensify those low vibrational emotions. What's the way out of that? Well, that perception of duality, observing the world outside of you and what's going on in the world, all the injustice that is happening in the world, can really pull us down, but it comes from a perception of duality. That we, and that was also one of the slides that I used last time, that we are all alone in all of this. And you look outside and you see everyone's playing along in all of this. You look into the alternative media and they're covering world events, and it looks like there's no way out of this. However, there is, through a shift of perception. And this perception of duality, one of the fundamentals of having an anchored perception of duality and of separation, me as a being separate from all other beings, and the world being a separate environment from myself. One of the ways our behavior, as well as our thoughts, are very insidiously and subconsciously, that means beyond the threshold of our conscious attention, how that perception of duality is manipulated is through the use of punishment. What I mean by this is that our behavior subconsciously is driven to not get punished. And there's so many ways we can get punished in these days, isn't there? in this totalitarian state that's being rolled out, even the breathing of oxygen can be punished. And as they're trying with me right now, they're trying to punish me because I refuse to ever wear a mask. And that's my challenge. What I want to point out here is this is a mind control point of the Matrix that has massive implications. Fear of punishment, and this we got since early childhood. It happened during childhood, the fear of punishment. Can we remember that? And if we can't remember that, then possibly we pushed it away because it's too traumatic to think about it. Just our very being, we're born into this world, and we are a being of light, a beautiful new member of the earth family, a new member of the human family here on the earth. And we come in with this pure soul, and then things happen during childhood, and the system starts to have an effect on us and starts to manipulate us through the use of punishment, which is especially used as a tool of mind control in schools and university. And that's what hurts our inner child being, also the heart soul essence of our being. And this is how one of the prime ways we are being manipulated into this perception of duality, which leads us to suffer so much in this world of insanity. During our childhood, maybe unconsciously and subconsciously, beyond the threshold of our conscious attention, and that's why I talk about this, might linger the question, where are mommy and daddy in all of this? Did I get enough love from mom and dad? Why didn't they have more time for me? Is it because I'm not lovable? Is it because there's something wrong with me? Where are mommy and daddy? And through the use of punishment on our being and the trauma that we suffer because of that, in our mind, mommy and daddy are substituted by the teacher at school, a representative of the state. And the system, slowly but surely, and in a very, very, very insidious way, is starting to take control over us and over our lives from our very earliest of days in our childhood. And this system, this mind control system, starts to take hold where? In our minds. And that construct, the system, that construct in our minds does not represent the reality that we were born into when we were a pure soul. From that point of trauma and not being able to digest and alchemize that trauma, that's where the system takes a foothold in our minds and starts to create this construct that only exists in our minds, which is an illusion so powerful that only the very few see through it and return back into the reality they were really born to, into the natural reality. This is what all of this is about. Our life is about the awakening, and the awakening is our birthright. Freedom is our birthright. It's the reason we came here onto the earth, and no one can take that away from us. It's just a matter, a question of timing when true freedom and what we recognize as true freedom, when that manifests. That it will manifest is a given only if we keep getting up when we fall down. As I said in the last video, life is about getting up. Life is about falling down 7 times and getting up 8 times. Yes, if we keep going, we will manifest that freedom. But we need to have a long-term perspective about this whole situation, because the situation we find ourselves in has been built up to for a very, very, very long time. At least a century. They've been building their dark new world order. This is a long-term project that they've put into effect, so it must also be a long-term project for us to get it right, and therefore we need to find out ways of how we can be psychologically strong to endure them. An awakening is a journey. How deep does it go? And what I can say from my experience that I've had the last weeks of disempowerment and confusion, which symbolizes a wall in front of me, okay? This is how you can picture it really well. It's like a wall in front of me, and I start complaining about this wall in front of me and how nonsensical it is, and asking myself the fundamental question, why am I even bothering to be here? What should I do here? And because of the thought attachment of only seeing this wall and being attached to it because of that perception of duality, looking at the wall, I needed to change my perception and see, oh, this wall was only when I was looking from the front. However, now it looks different. So on this journey, at any point of these spirals, and I'll get into that later, seeing that wall in front of you and feeling disempowered and confused, having anxiety and fear, seeing that wall is looking from the other side of the coin is a sign that you're leveling up now, that your life is changing now. You have to go through the pain now that's coming up, and then you level up onto a higher octave of this spiral. The awakening has a spiral nature, not a linear nature. This is very important to re-emphasize also. Awakening is not linear. Oh, I know more and more and I become more aware of. Because the awakening is tied to emotions, you have a spiral effect of ascension and descending, which I'll get into later. And the awakening journey is also a journey through the shadow lands. And knowing that we are in the shadow lands, being honest about that, as I shared in my last video. That's why I'm brutally honest sometimes about that. Sometimes even too honest. And also sometimes I can also lie to myself like no one else can. Be sure, my friends, we are the ones that can lie to ourselves in the best manner that we don't even notice it. But this journey through the Shadowlands is accelerating our awakening. Things get better when they get worse. Because nothing is what it seems. What is this? Is this a vessel? Or are these two faces? It depends how you look at it. It depends what you focus your perception on. And when the renegade maverick asks, what is reality? Then it is time to see both sides of this picture. Maybe they both have reason to be here, and it's not one or the other. And the renegade maverick mindset is something I wish to focus on more in the coming videos also. This is what we need, is the renegade maverick. Our individual, hardcore, individualistic being. In true knowing of who and what we are and why we are in this world. And take action that no one else would take. And that being the very reason why it's going to work. The reason why an action that no one else is taking is going to work is exactly because no one else is doing it. That is a renegade maverick mindset, for example. And the renegade maverick asks, what is reality? Knowing that this is the ultimate mystery to ask. There's so many facets to this question, and it is the ultimate question. And all other questions subordinate to this fundamental philosophical question, what is reality? We need to find out. So as I keep alluding to with Plato's cave, and it's so important, I don't do this to bore you, but it's so important to re-emphasize. I need to pull up this picture in every video, every week, so we don't forget. Because we can be so pulled into where most people are. That is including the people in the alternative media. People that are informed, the people that would consider themselves awake. Observing the shadow projections on the wall. And what I want to emphasize here is that when we look at information, Also in the alternative arena, whatever information we look at, it can have a negative effect on us and bring our vibration down when we see the injustice of what is going on in the world. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't entertain this sort of information, however. I come back to the main point. Our perception of how we view that information is crucial. Be aware, and I'm pointing this out here for you because it's also this really changed something inside of me when I realized this. When the information pulls you in, the information that you're looking at, when the information pulls you in and activates you energetically, emotionally, and you become emotionally attached to that what you're looking at. This is what brings down your vibration. As soon as you become aware of that when you look at information in the internet or wherever, things that shock you, looking at what's going on in the world, if you become aware that your attachments are happening emotionally with you, with the information you're looking at, then it dissolves. That's why I'm pointing it out. So don't be drawn into the drama of world events. And then you have the media projecting from the power behind the media, which I'll get into. That which wants us to see things in a certain way because it gets its energy from how we react to that information we're engaging with. And so-called truth seekers, real truth seekers, are the ones who get out of the cave altogether. So it's an interaction. We can and should entertain and see what's going on in the world. However, at the same time, be able to go the inner journey. Because when we're observing information, we are focused on the outside world, that what we perceive to be happening in the world, and so focused on the outside world that we lose touch with our inner world. And when we do that regularly, we're not anchored in our being, and we're not embodied in our being. We're not in our body. We need to. This is something that has also helped me in the last week now, since I did my last video, is doing Qigong again. Every morning when I get up, doing Qigong, doing yoga exercises, meditation, which brings the energy into your body. And when you do this regularly, you're not so much in the mind. I'm just sharing with you and I know all of this information already. However, it's important because we always fall into the same traps when we're not honest with ourselves, to remember it's about where we put our energy and not have an imbalance of energy that we're putting into the outside world, but balancing that with anchoring our energy in our body through meditation, qigong, yoga, whatever fits you. It can be dancing, music, whatever fits to you. We need to do that regularly and balance informing ourselves. The world stage drama, all the world's a stage, and this is the world drama stage, and it's happening every single day. There's something new, isn't there? Is there ever a day where nothing happens? We just relax. Yeah. Do you do that? Do you take days where you don't entertain any media? Oh, good on you. That's a really fabulous thing to do, to disengage. However, it can still, even if we don't watch anything, be entertained inside our minds. pondering on the thought, wow, maybe something's happened. How do you think things are gonna continue in the future? And all this drama is being played out on the world stage. And all the politicians are actors, the same as those technocrats that are advising the politicians. They're all actors. They're all, I'm generalizing here, there's not all of them, but basically they're all enslaved and addicted to their ego consciousness, which makes them just follow orders blindly and impose slavery on the rest of the world. So all the Gates advisors, all the politicians, and all of them, they're all actors. And that's the people we're shown that are running this mind control program of the Covidian cult. But when the world's a stage, and they're all actors being shown to us on the movie screen, I want to know who the people backstage are and how deep that rabbit hole goes. What's the end of this chain of command? Who is ultimately giving the orders of this Covidian cult? That is what I want to know. Which means that we remove ourselves consciously. With our consciousness, we remove ourselves from the world drama stage of actors and go backstage and look at the background program that's running and find out how we can break the circuit of this background program that I refer to as the Matrix. Life is a game. We need to remember. And when we're only observing the drama stage and looking at shadow projections on the wall of information entertainment, being energetically and emotionally pulled into that drama, then we're being played in that game of life instead of playing it. And that's what the awakening journey is all about, is that we are on, as is portrayed here, on this chessboard. We're on it. We're finding out who we truly are, and we find out who we truly are when we face our traumas and become one with our being once again. Life is a game. What are the rules to this game? How is it that this agenda of the dark New World Order can just conjure up new rules to the game and just say now the country doesn't run on laws, which it's not been run for a very long time. Here in Europe, ever since nation states have joined the European Union, countries have not been run on laws, okay? They've been run on statutes, not laws. But even in that case, how is it that these emergency rules still apply now? We need to find out the rules to this game, the principles of this game. And that's how we can get further. And this is why I'm only talking about this on my channel, and that's why you hardly ever hear me talk about the depth of the Covidian mind control program, although I thought I will do a video soon about that just to mix things up. That's why I talk more about life philosophy, because philosophy is the stabilizing influence of our psyche. Knowing who we are, why we are here, contemplating these questions and having these questions drive us forward to succeed in life and to manifest freedom in our life. Natural law level chess is what we're playing when we expand our consciousness away from the chessboard. Okay, this again, you see, it's another shift of perception. Here we're on the chessboard. We realize life is a game, and it's about activating as a player on the chessboard. But we change perception and we get an overview of the situation, and this is natural law level chess. Asking the obvious question, who are the guys at the corner here staring into the game? The gatekeepers, the so-called rulers, or possibly those in the backstage of the stage. Maybe we can end this whole game of theater of the Matrix by engaging with the background characters of this Matrix, what the Gnostics call the Archons, and what I've been going into, the Witico virus, as it's called in South America. And not only who they are, but why they even exist on this dimension that we're on, the Earth plane. Why do they exist on Earth, and how can we strike a balance with them? How do we get rid of them? Or should we even get rid of them? How does this work? Do we need to get the learning lesson of what these beings are teaching us? Let's find out. It is a force of limitation. This is what I've talked about often. However, as many other things, very important to keep re-emphasizing that we, as human beings, have the first say in what happens on this planet. However, the degree of our say in all of this, okay, the level of authority that we have on how this game, this drama on planet Earth plays out, the level of authority that we have in all of this depends on our level of consciousness, and how and to what degree we understand the game, the virtual reality game of life that we're engaged in. To what degree and to what depth do we understand and understand this game and make the right contribution, the right action in this world based on this deepness of knowledge about the game of life? Will it all change then? So this force of limitation, why are they here? And what do? They are experts. These dark occult overlords are experts in hijacking the mind. They do it so insidiously that you won't even realize it. Because due to our lack of differentiation and seeing and observing which thoughts are our own, the ones we choose, and the thoughts we didn't choose, and the thoughts that enslave us, and those thoughts that make us disempowered and confused do not originate from our greater being. That's as simple as. However, because what has happened in our childhood, the traumatization that first happened in our childhood and that has continued as a feedback loop, as a thought loop that these beings specialize in. They specialize in creating thought loops that we stay stuck in. And I'll get deeper into that in the next video on the nature of the thought loops. And when we can suss that, how these thought loops play out in our mind and that they are not originating from us, but from this force of limitation that feeds of our energy and have hijacked our mind by pulling our attention, our awareness into this thought loop. And the thought loop could be, nothing ever changes. No matter what I try, nothing changes, so I better not try anymore. Because life's misery, and I'll just do my job and hope that something will come up that will change the world for me. That's a thought loop. They hijack our minds. They're experts in it without us even realizing, and that's why it's so insidious, and that's why I like to specialize in it and point it out, because when we, and as you can see here, the mind, our mind, interacts with the surrounding environment. This is beyond the perception of duality. You see that? Where the environment, in a perception of duality where we are separate entity to our environment and to all the beings around us, we can see here that our mind interacts with our environment and we have all the power to change our circumstances because of that. This is the principle of correspondence in natural law terms. And they hijack our mind, they create thought loops, and when we become aware of the nature of these thought loops and choose to align with our greater being again, we disconnect from the matrix. We disconnect from this thought loop, and the movie that is playing out on the world drama stage stops. And these are so-called glitches of the matrix. When our greater being comes in, that's why they need to control us. You do not control someone that is of no significance. You do not control human beings because they're nothing, because we're insignificant and we can't create change. No, they control us because we're the influence of our greater being come into this world, were it to come into this world, and will act according to that individual mindset, that genius that we're all endowed with, it could break down the entire control system. That's why the nature of incessant control on us. And this Wetiko is a son of a bitch. He is. And I'm ready to take any attacks, me saying so, because I say this Wetiko, okay, the Gnostics called them Archons, they're energetic beings that are actually more of a field of consciousness. They are more a field of consciousness, like we also are. Everything in its prime state is of the nature of energy, frequency, and vibration, as Tesla said. And when we talk about the Archons or Wetiko, they're also a field of consciousness that is constantly trying to hijack our perception, hijack our mind, and to keep us powerless, because if we were in our power, we would take the motherfucker down. Excuse my English. I love swearing sometimes. Makes me very happy, especially about influences like Wetiko. He's a son of a bitch. And I'll get much deeper into his mind tricks in the next video, so stay tuned, alright? This is an ongoing investigation, going into the depth of awakening and dark shadow and light elements. Bring it up, bring it all on, because I've had enough of this world drama play. Let's break down this matrix for real, shall we? So although he's a son of a bitch, this bastard is actually our greatest teacher. Yeah, talk about seeing things different. And we know this to be true. We don't like to accept this. Of course not, but it's very difficult to accept. I totally get that. However, it's the truth. Feel into this statement. This Wetiko mind virus, also called the devil or Satan, whatever, is actually our greatest teacher. Yeah, let all the resistance to this statement come up, and then we can continue. Breathe in. And this is just a suggestion. Maybe it's true. I'm just take it or leave it. Let me explain my case I have for it. Why could that be possible? Because a good teacher doesn't tell you what you want to hear, and you know what comes next. And I know you don't like it. Same as I don't. A good teacher doesn't tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. That's why enlightenment is a destructive process, and people get pissed off of what's going on in the world right now, because the greatest teacher is revealing himself and asking for us. Are you ready to play this game of life to the true principles that the entire life philosophy is governed by, where I, as a son of a bitch, am and serve a teaching function to humanity in this game of life? Are you ready to come out of your victim state of awareness and choose to play the game? Because you do not come out of this life without dying. So just go for it in a balanced manner. Don't go totally crazy on it, okay? Then probably the intelligence services will shoot you if you just bring out a free energy device and now like, yeah, we got to change the world now. No, we need to think long term again and let our consciousness grow with it. That's why I was happy now, and I am happy now that I was in this state of depression the last week and the last few weeks, because it reminded me of the true honesty that I still need to work on myself and learn constantly, especially the things that make my pain rise up and my blood boil. Because, as I said, he's a son of a bitch and he knows our weaknesses. They know our weaknesses. And when we transform those weaknesses to our greatest strengths, then the game is over. Good teacher doesn't tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Oh, we don't want to hear that at all. Yes, it's the worst nightmare. The worst freaking nightmare. Worldwide Soviet regime that is a puppet of the Wetiko virus. That's how it plays out in the world of the seen. Coming from the world of the unseen, of a very distorted consciousness, a very distorted field of consciousness. In the unseen that we can't see, the realm of demons, the master of all demons, and the demons being a copy, a replica of this prime virus. And that's why globally you have the virus theme happening. And we need to figure out why that is. So possibly this so-called virus doesn't exist on a biological level. However, on a metaphysical, psychological level, it absolutely exists. And that is absolutely in alignment with the principles of the natural order. One of the principles is the principle of mentalism. Everything is of a mental origin. So forget about the biological. Yes, they can't show it to exist as in an isolated form. However, on the causal level of reality, on the mental plane, this virus absolutely exists and it's running rampant. And I'll get deeper into what it is so we can heal this virus, so we can then heal this entire world crisis situation. It's a puppet of the Wetiko virus. And that Wetiko virus is also in our mind. And there it is our greatest teacher, and there to be healed by us, the ones that are infinite creator beings. And maybe it takes these totalitarians to get the best out of us. Dark and light, in the yin and the yang, both have a reason to exist on this plane, otherwise they wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be observable. It was already observable in the years before this crisis, but now it's right in our faces, and the question is, how long still do we want to experience this level of evil? because it's getting worse and worse and worse until we say stop. And this is what I will get deeper into. And I'm also creating, finally, my Navigating the Matrix episode 7. Finally, I know it's been a long time, however, this 7 has a vibration that I needed to grow into. This is unity consciousness. When we realize that Satan is a mindset that reflects our childhood traumas that we keep repeating in a repetitive thought loop of enslavement, because ultimately we're not enslaved by them, we enslave ourselves through our minds. That's the end target of this entire manipulation, of this entire world drama stage, with all the actors and then the background actors backstage doing the background program of the Matrix in form of Wetiko. The end stage is our minds, and that means we are responsible to break down that program of the Matrix in our minds and change everything. It can only be us. And we come into unity consciousness and realize that breakdown is breakthrough. It's the perception of truth. And can we realize that this is the truth, independent if it is me speaking it? Because as I often say, these are transmissions of the earth. I come and sit down here, put together these pictures, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, because I let go of control and into trust, and it'll come. It'll come, the right information, it'll come in order to make a difference in this world. The perception of truth we connect to, and unity consciousness. And we see through this lens. We've changed our perception from the perception of duality, where everything is separate and where evil is taking over the world, and we are confused and don't know what to do and how to change and transform the situation. And then we realize all that evil outside of us serves a learning lesson. We come into unity consciousness, and you don't need to tell me how much this guy annoys me and how much the actors that are employed enrage me. It's the same with me. However, a very wise call and a very wise idea is to remove yourself from the drama stage. That's how we get out of Plato's cave. That's where the truth-seeking leads into freedom. The heart anchor intelligence. The heart anchor intelligence. Our heart is the only portal out of this. And we can know this to be true, and it's often talked about. So we need to keep talking about it. And it can be at any second, in any moment, where someone says something that really activates you. Take note. Take note when something makes sense and activates that heart anchor intelligence, where you put the anchor into the heart. Note it down. Let that be the wave that carries you along toward freedom. Catch that wave. You can do it in any moment. Face up. Become real. Dissolve those trapped traumas from our past. If you don't take note, as you're watching this video and you become motivated, you're starting to see how everything connects together. Take note, remember yourself, align with your greater being regularly, long-term project. And you make it out of it, because this son of a bitch is not sleeping. Let me tell you. Can be fired up now as you're listening to these words, but this son of a bitch ain't sleeping, okay? I know it to be true. And that's how we get into that heart anchor intelligence. Realize that it's a spiral of awakening. And whenever, I keep re-emphasizing this, whenever we're in a destructive process of disempowerment and confusion, anxiety, fear, sorrow, feeling ashamed for ourselves because we're not up to what we thought our life is going to be, we're struggling, we can realize that we're moving up the spiral, and at the same time you have to move down the spiral due to the ascend and descend nature of the spiral. When we are disillusioned with our life and frustrated and in fear, and we see that black wall in front of us, or red wall, we see that wall in front of us and we think it doesn't continue like that, and we keep suffering and we'll have to keep suffering the next day. Maybe the journey and the experience of suffering ends now. And that wall finally tells you the learning lesson that it's about leveling up. There's more. There's much more to life, and you only encounter this frustration and disconnection because it's time to move on, and therefore you get disconnected from life in order to align yourself interiorly again and connect with your greater being. Be like spiral, ascend and descend. This is how the natural world works. It's also how Tauruses work, how the basis of free energy, how it works. And I don't know the details to the physics of all of this, but I know this is how it works. It's the natural way away from the artificial way. It's a spiral, and it's the descent into the underworld, the shamanic descent into the underworld, where you come out transformed. You've transformed that darkness to become the light. You ascend by descending. Those things are not separate from each other in unity consciousness. Seeing it through this lens and seeing that both light and dark exist at the same time. Let it go. Let it flow. How do we get into heart anchor intelligence? Remember, it's the longest journey we'll ever make. Take it step by step, one small step at a time, and sometimes you'll have a big step. Just walk that journey, continue that journey by letting it go and letting it flow. That is nature at its core. Let it go, let it flow. Let the emotions come up and just let it go. Don't attach to it anymore. And that helps. Through regular meditation, you become aware of the thought loops that are created by the virus inside of you, and you break the circuit of the thought loop. When you do regular body work and you focus your energy, you anchor your energy in your body. This is the heart anchor intelligence. You anchor your energy in your body and in your heart that is also in your body. You become aware of the thought loops and you break the circuit of these thought loops by letting it go, letting it flow. Oh yeah, that happened in the past, yeah. But it's not here now anymore, and I thank the past. So instead of staying in a state of disillusionment, of confusion, of disempowerment, choose to do something different. Actually say, oh, this is great, I'm going through this. This is great because I know I'm spiraling further. I'm moving up the octave. It's time to move. Hey, let's go. Let it go, let it flow. And then we see the world of wonder again. We can see it again. Like when we were a little child before all the trauma struck. And attached to these traumas, the thought loops began, and we started to engage in this fictitious construct within our mind that is being fed by the trauma we experienced as a child. That we are engaged in this construct, in the mind that is the matrix, and that is an illusion. And now we break out of that artificial reality that does not exist, and we return back to original reality where we were when we were born. We come back to ourselves again, and we do it because we love ourselves, the same as we love those two children that we can see here right now. This is us. We see reality through the lens of unity. We are that child, and we wouldn't do anything bad to that child, would we? So why would we do anything bad to ourselves? We need to stop harming ourselves. And I'm talking to you because I've done it far too often, and I stop hurting myself. Enough. I learn my lessons in due course, knowing that my heart anchor intelligence is the longest journey I'll ever make. I'll have patience with that process and full respect and honor to be able to live this life and make a change in a world that needs this love most. We need to take back the earth. We need to realize this is the promise we made to her. We need to realize that this is our freedom card, and that she's giving it all. She's giving all that we need to grow. And like another good teacher that I talked about, she is a good teacher that doesn't tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. She is showing us the way through our life's challenges, and we'll master them together, all of us. So we need to take back the earth by taking ourselves back, because through the lens of unity, it is all one. The earth is going through the same shift as we are. And we know, and we can reduce it to that one core understanding that it all is a psychological game. It all is a psychological game, and it keeps trying to trigger us emotionally to engage with the world stage, because we're an energy source feeding the backstage players that have created that stage. We break that circuit through seeing through the psychological game. And instead of reacting, this is how the heart anchor intelligence works. It's through taking responsibility, which is the ability to respond. Instead of reacting by being triggered by whatever, by our children, by our boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, stranger, or politician, or anyone, we get triggered. We don't react and feed that energy. We take a deep breath and realize, tried to trick me again. That's why he is, you know what, trying to always trick this trickster, right? Remember this. That's how you know that we are fully responsible, and we are the ones that are gonna make all the change in the world by changing our lives, transforming our lives to the life of our dreams. It's our birthright. Realize the truth of this. Obstacles can't stop you. Problems can't stop you. Most of all, other people can't stop you. The only one who stops you is yourself. How about that? So, I've been quite depressed the last few weeks. It's been hard. However, I've changed my approach. And actually, it's great this is happening because, you spiral up by spiraling down first, and then it's going up. Realize it's a wall in front of you. Oh, thank you, there's a wall. There's an end to all of this because I didn't like it too. I was just talking to the wall, alright? Spiral up. Next level. So till next time, trust in yourself. We're the change we want to see in the world, and we're the ones we've been waiting for. Much love.